Hello and welcome everybody to another podcast. It's a bit late, but we were for round 14 at Spa-Francorchamps for the Belgian Grand Prix. Today, Blade isn't with me, but I've got two guests with me in Sintium from Division 5 and our current Division 4 championship leader in Raven, who is driving for Mercedes. So us three will guide you through the action for the Belgian Grand Prix from a couple of weeks ago. And yeah, what can we say? Historic track, great track to race on, not only in one lap pace, but also takes some skill on the long runs, as it's one of the longest tracks on the calendar, with a lap time just over 1 minute and 40 seconds on single runs. So yeah, I think not too much to point out about the track anymore, and we just head into the Division 1 action immediately. Looking at the race results this week at Spa, it was Blade who won for McLaren. He had the fastest lap of the race as well after starting on P7. Ghost Jr. then finished second, with Snipes the championship leader in third, BFord in fourth, Sam in P5 with a good result for Alpha Tauri, Gibson in P6, Torpen in P7, J Ninja, a last minute reserve, in P8, the season 2 champion. Zuku then in P9 and Noka in P10, so double top 10 finish for Haas, with a couple more finishes up to P12, while myself, Atom, Daniel, and Mizzy still score points while DNFing right at the death, so maybe also missing out on a couple more points. Looking at the Drivers' Championship, Snipes obviously still leads the way. He now sits on 216 points, with BFord on 199. So the Mercedes driver is certainly still very close to the Alpine, with only 17 points gap. Blade then in third now, jumps up by 2 positions to 174 points, with SLA Ham on 164 and the Welsh Jack on 160. So the second Alpine driver lacking a bit of performance recently. Radius still in P6 with 97 points, Mark Souza on 84, Ghost Jr. in 8th on 74, myself Atom on 62, and Torpen rounds off the top 10 with 52 points. Finally, in Division 1, looking at the Constructors' Championship, Alpine still just over 100 points ahead from Mercedes, so the French outfit leads with 376 points, while Mercedes is on 272. McLaren then on 248, so with Gibson and Blade recently, they've gained loads of points on the top 2, with Alfa Romeo 4th on 216, Aston Martin on 191, Red Bull on 161, Ferrari in 7th on 144, Haas on 137, Williams on 131, and Alpha Tauri obviously last due to the poor season start, only on 63 points. Well, let's maybe start with Sintium. You were here last week for our France podcast as well, and you're obviously known to winning. So is Blade, who since he returned around round 7 has picked up a couple of wins. It's another one, and he's obviously traveling abroad again, so it's probably one of his last, if not his last race this season. I mean, that's basically a perfect ending to his season, basically, isn't it? Fastest lap, race win at Spa, which is, I think, one of the best tracks to win a race at, as it's so historical.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get the luxury of saying that, as my race was pretty shocking, but this isn't about me at the moment. But I guess it is a good way to send it off. Spa, as you said, one of the most historic tracks on the calendar. I think it would be a good way to send off your season after you're going to, travel the world, be abroad. I think it's a nice touch to say, thanks for the memories that I've had. I'll step back for a while and then maybe I'll come back even stronger from the experiences I've made.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he was probably the best driver at the end of last game. He's won the mini season at the end of last game as well. He's might be the quickest driver right now, but it's all just really, really fine margins. So certainly good to have such a driver being there for a couple of rounds, around 7 rounds, and you never know. Maybe he gets up in the morning over at Japan to do the odd race, which would obviously be good for the competition on this grid. We mentioned the top two, Snipes and BFord now, only split by 17 points. 14 points. If I'm no, it was 17. I'm just blind, my bad. So Raven West, you're obviously also in Mercedes, and BFord is also your team owner. I mean, Mercedes overall has done a nice job so far this season, and you yourself had it have a bit bigger margin in your championship, but for Snipes, who's led the championship for more than 10 rounds now, and even had a gap to P2 of around 40-50 points, it must be a turn of events really to have someone now really close, less than a race win, isn't it? That surely is something that worries you if you think that BFord had a pretty bad start to the season as well.
Well, yeah. I mean, the whole Mercedes team is cooking. To be honest, every time in the Mercedes server, for example, we have the results channel where we bring our results in, and it's rare to see drivers not scoring points, let alone not in the top 6, top 5. So yeah, overall, it's been fantastic. And if you go through most of the championships, there's a Mercedes quite high up there. Beford's now, of course, really putting the pressure on P1 as well, which is good because it'd be nice to get a nice haul of trophies for the whole team, a couple of drivers, a couple of constructors here and there, and it's good to see that Beford in the top divisions really pushing for that GRL champion spot.
Yeah. Also, I think very great to see that the team owner himself is really trying his best to pick up as many points for his team as possible.
Yeah, absolutely, leading from the front. You know what I mean? That's all that is.
Yeah.
It's like when a captain scores a goal in football. It's really it's nice to know that your team principal, your team owner, is setting the pace really, and he's put the standards down. It's not he hasn't just landed on a good team and they're carrying him forward. It's he's setting the pace, setting the trend, and we're all trying to copy.
Yeah, for sure. And I think Sintium will agree that having a Division 1 team owner on good form is probably what really motivates you as a lower diff driver. I mean, with Haas, they have currently got Wargasms, who's in Division 3, so probably doesn't speak for them too much, but still. Yeah, that's basically what it's all about in Division 1 right now, with the top two being so close, but we never know. Maybe whilst Jack will appear with the odd race win again and close that gap down. Well, yeah, that's basically Division 1 wrapped up while Blade
just before we move on, I do want to say I do also think Blade is very capable of pushing on a late charge as well.
Yeah, for sure.
I know he's a very quick driver. He's been in other leagues that I've been in, and I know how quick he is. I think he can really be the other one to watch there in that championship fight. I think he's going to close that gap in more than people maybe expect him to.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, as we said, for the last two races, really depends on when he gets up from bed. Considering I think one races starts at 5:30 a.m. for him, so
yeah, that's tough.
There's not going to be too much quali practice right before the session, but yeah, I think we all know how quick Blade is. As said, might be the quickest driver in this division. Just missed the first 6 races or 7 races, which probably hurt his championship a lot. So considering he's just over a race win, or actually under 2 at least, behind the leader is amazing. And yeah, especially when he's back for that will probably be season 6 in F1 24. I think people need to maybe step the game up a little bit to be prepared for the half Japanese driver returning for his first actual Division 1 championship. But as said, it's all about the championship fight right now in Division 1, and something is brewing in there, especially between Snipes and BFord, because as long as the rivals are away or lacking a bit of performance, it's just between them, and there's nothing better than a Division 1 on V1 title fight at this moment. Looking at Division 2, our second best division, obviously. We were at Spa obviously there as well, and it was actually a Belgian driver who won the race. It was ROM Drazzy, who got demoted a couple of weeks ago, qualified P3 in the wet but won the race. Rob Kelly in second. He's just lost the race win going into the bus stop at the last corner, so almost a photo finish there between them two, with Dylan Baxter in third. So as Raven was mentioned, Mercedes always up there. Another podium picked up by them here, with Venicus in fourth for Alpha Tauri, Thunder in P5, Rambo as reserve in P6, Jackson in P7, basically defending Division 2 world champion. He obviously only reserved this season. Jamie Hobbs in P8, Fizzle in 9th, and Amos Lloyd in 10th with the fastest lap of the race. In the Drivers' Championship, Jente Bars, another Belgian driver, not attending this week, so he's lost a couple of points to Hobbs in second, who's on 185 points, and Dylan Baxton 177. Esla Jamden in P4 with 144 points, and then quite a big margin to Amos Cole in P5 on 108 points. Jim LFCMC, the reserve, on 98 points, 1 place ahead of Rob Kelly on 90 points. He's level pegging with Savage Cabbage, while Lloyd is in 9th on 87 points, who's 1 point ahead of Snaps in 10th. So the fastest lap point for Lloyd puts him 1 position higher. And in this midfield, it all looks very, very close. Finally,
name of the division goes to Savage Cabbage. By the way, what an absolute fantastic game attack.
Yeah, we said that actually. I think last week or a couple of weeks ago, it's like Savage
for real?
Cabbage is.
What a name, bro! What a name.
Well, the name's right for Aston Martin, just the points not at this point, and that's what I'm gonna talk about now, because Mercedes, as I think Raven West and me will agree on, or where they should be in P1 on 385 points, with
I disagree.
Massive margin to Haas in second on 231 points, Alfa Romeo on 216, jumping Red Bull on 212, Alpha Tauri in 199, Ferrari in 196, and McLaren jumping Aston and Alpine to P7 on 191 points. So between those three, it's really, really close. While they all use different engines as well. Aston Martin, and there we go, P8 155 points, and Alpine on 152, while Williamson 10th on 83, so the only team below the 100 points mark. I mean, it's probably quite decent now that we've got Raven West here, because as said, you're part of the Mercedes team, kind of know how the vibe is in there, as obviously not always can replicate what's going on in there, but we said Jente Bars is obviously having a solid margin now at the top of the championship. But Dylan Baxter recently seems to have really good form, and currently still Jente has enough of a margin to control it calmly. But if Dylan picks the form up and has some momentum on his side, I think come the last 2 races there might be some rivalries going on between these two, and they certainly will need to have a look that Hobbs doesn't pick up the pieces from that, don't they?
Well, I know Hops from one of my first seasons in GRL. He's actually from the same neck of the woods as me, same spot in Ireland, and up in the north. And I like him a lot. I can't lie. Even though I'm a Mercedes driver, I am a fan of Hops. I'm happy to see him do well. But yeah, the Mercedes boys, both of them up there in 1 and 3, 100 points as over clear in the constructors. No, it's been once again. They're just clear and quick and consistent. I think that's the big thing with the Mercs is, as I said from Div 1, it's rare to see them outside the points. They're so quick and they're so consistent.
Yeah, well, that basically sums it up. So as long as they keep it clean between themselves, probably nobody can dethrone them, especially in the constructors. I mean, Sintium, we talked about Spa earlier, how great the track is. But for Drazzy, who is from Belgium himself, to win his home race at the last corner of the race, really. I mean, it's only a video game, we got to take that into contention. But surely feels great, doesn't it, to win your home race at the last corner and have that streamed as well? Probably makes you proud. No?
Yeah, I mean, winning your home race at any point in any time of your life is always a good feeling. Although it might just be a video game, if you're doing league racing, it could lead to great things. So, any win counts as a good feeling afterwards, such as your home win, which can just give an even bigger boost as, you have the home advantage. You feel like you do anyway. I hope you do. But just in all fairness, it's just a great feeling overall, and I'm glad he could get that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Drazzy himself at the start of the season was in Division 1, but I think as all three of us can agree, he wasn't performing as he expected to, and the game was not his favourite one. And yeah, the game is certainly something special this year. But yeah, he's now into Division 2, where he started his GRL career and is really excelling. I think, which is good to see, because at the end of the day, we all want to see drivers happy and really pushing towards the top, and sometimes a bit of time in the lower division to get your motivation and momentum up really helps to then really attack the top guys.
Absolutely.
As we can see actually with you, Raven West. I mean, you were in Division 4 last season, which I think we can all agree was a pretty strong Division 4 on based on the grid, considering that Hops in there, who's now Div 2. We had Yasin in there, who's Div 3. Who else? Jacob Brown, the champion, now in Division 1. There were so many different winners. I mean, you almost got it if Jaden wasn't going for an interesting restart, or Cammy. But yeah, just having the momentum on your side really helps in league racing, doesn't it? Because the confidence on these ground fit cars is just something that you really need to win races.
Absolutely. And yeah, I just said like having your home race would be something special, let alone winning it. There'll be a massive boost in the sales for doing that. And yeah, no, it's definitely a momentum game. It's a confidence game. It's success breeds success. Failures breeds failures, and it's like if you get in your own head, it's the worst place you can be. As you said with the cars, it has to be confidence. You have to know where the grip is. You have to know where the limits are. You have to and you have to trust the car's gonna grip up when it does, and that's all about just feeling confident in the car, feeling confident in yourself, and just knowing that the car's gonna stick. And yeah, no, it's all about momentum. It's all one mistake in a race even can derail you for the whole race in terms of it's just lack of trust. I remember it was in another races that have been, there's been the time of qualifying where the track is really slippy at the start, and it takes me a while to build the confidence up, because just when you're getting wheel spin, or your car's locking up maybe, or just getting a bit of random bits of understeer, it's hard to really get that trust. So a good qualifying leads to a good race leads to another good race, a couple of good races leads to a good season. It's all a building on success game.
Exactly. That's something at least that we can basically replicate from real life, even though the game is not at its best. It really, the driver can make the difference, probably even more, because the cars are equal. Finally, I have to say.
They're basically still even, so that's the problem.
They have the slight differences, but I think so far it's fine. Luckily, we don't have cars
they've always had
hydraulics on the formation.
Yeah, true. I mean, I always tell the people, like when people disconnect, or they have Wi-Fi issues, or they have power cuts, I say to them, well, you don't have engine failures, you don't have mechanical failures in your races, so it's the equivalent. You know what I mean? Like some people's, like Jarno, his pedals broke on a quali lap in Zandvoort. So those things could happen as well, but in terms of software issues, Wi-Fi issues, like even the fact that races can disconnect towards the end, and the whole lobby crashes, maybe on the last lap, for example. There's all these problems are just our equivalents of the real life problems with mechanical failures and red flags. And in Monza, for example, in real life, when the race ended on the safety car, those kind of things all exist in the same vein, but just in different flavors. But yeah, no, it's that's why I tell to people who suffer like disconnects or even unfair grid penalties. You know what I mean? Like you're never going to have a gearbox failure that means you like between quali and the race, which means you take a 5-place grid penalty. So even though the same way it's random for those drivers, it's random for us, and when the game decides just to be stupid. But yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, if it wasn't unforeseeable, we wouldn't be racing because we already would know the results. So,
No, exactly, 100%. And that's what I love about racing. Anything can happen. Anything can happen at any point. And even this, even though it's like you said, it's only a game, but it's still competitive. People still practice. People still train. There's still technique. It's still a competition that people do take very seriously. All you have to do is be a steward for 5 minutes to see how seriously people take being crashed into on one of these races. So
exactly, yeah.
it's there's no denying like the amount of races that I afterwards I have to go take a shower after because it's the sweat from focusing and the heart rate. My one of my dear friends who also league races, he wears a Fitbit, and he said that he averages around about 130 to 150 beats per minute during the races when he's battling. Like there was a race me and him had, we battled lap one to the
differs,
end, and
which is
he
very
averaged
interesting,
140.
like it is in real life. I mean, probably some drivers take it harder. Just you would assume in real life, someone like Yuki Tsunoda takes things at times with a bit of a higher heart rate than someone like
Yeah,
Fernando Alonso.
absolutely,
So,
absolutely.
So yeah, also differs between our drivers, probably the more experienced ones, and then the just newcomers. So yeah, but talking about a mix of newcomers and experienced drivers, I think it's a perfect time to head over to Division 3. In Division 3 in Belgium, Schumbacher won for Rebel. Once again, going into the final corner, the Bastard chicane was a very preferred overtaking spot this weekend. Well, this Monday, if anything. Misello then finished second, so it was a Red Bull 1-2 with boosted RB in third. So the three championship contenders really finishing in the three podium spots. Kicksora then in fourth, reserving for McLaren, with TIR Hayes in P5, Macca in P6, Owl in P7, FG Wheat in P8, H Nolan in P9, and some Pikachu in 10th. Looking at the Drivers' Championship, Misello finally equalised points with Avenicus. They're now both on 196 points, but Avenicus now obviously in Division 2, so he's not going to score any more points. With boosted now in net P2 on 183 points, so still just over 10 points behind Misello. With Macca in, let's say, third with 143 points, and we've got Ashimbash on 131, some Pikachu on 115, Lorne on 115 as well, Yasin on 77, Hayes on 69 and Cami on 62. So you can really see the difference, especially from the top 7 to the rest. So seems to be some field spread here already. In the Constructors' Championship, Alpha Tauri leads with 372 points and Red Bull on 320. Then we've got Mercedes on 277. So even though they're not really in the championship fight itself in the driver standings, they've almost scored 300 points, which speaks for itself. So a very solid third place for them, not being attacked from the teams behind right now, as Ferrari's on 188 points. It's almost 100 points off. Alpine then on 161 points, McLaren on 138, and Aston Martin on 138 as well. Alfa Romeo then on 126 points, with Williams on 115 and Haas on 85. I mean, I'm going to start with Sintium again. I mean, you were here last week for France, and we said that Alpha Tauri were leading with more than 300, with more than 100 points a couple of rounds ago, and it reduced to just under that. And now the gap is 52 points. Does that show that when Avenicus and Boosted were together, they racked up the points, the podiums, the race wins? But now one of them is gone, and Red Bull is suddenly performing at the best. that you really, for the whole season, need to have two drivers that are fully on it. Because right now, Alpha Tauri is suffering a lot because they've only got Boosted, who scores a couple of podiums, no race wins really since Vegas. Does that really prove that Red Bull are now in the pouncing seat and going full attack mode to the rest of the season to pick up both titles?
I mean, I think just generally, overall, it's important to have two of your best drivers in the car and just two drivers overall, because then that means, regardless of where you finish or where you start, it's more of a chance to get more points for the team. And as you're saying, with one of the drivers out in AlphaTauri and giving Haas or Red Bull to chase them down, I think that if Haas and Red Bull both have their two drivers, or just two drivers in general in their team, anything can happen within the Constructors standings. And if AlphaTauri keep maintaining the one driver, then obviously they'll only go down as they can't score as many points as the other two teams can.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as said, Red Bull really seem to have a good run of form recently, which is helping them out. Yeah, it was always Division 3 was a bit weird for the whole season. Like, there was never one driver that stood out, as we'll probably talk about in around the next division. But there's so many midfield fights. Then we've got Owl, who finished 7th this week, but he's won at Portugal out of nowhere at his debut after qualifying 14th. There are also many races where it rains in Division 3, which is very interesting because those drivers are obviously on the verge of dropping kind of towards the lower tiers, but also some of them could get promoted soon to Division 2 because they're performing really well. So yeah, that's all very interesting. I mean, Raven, if we Boosted has one race win so far this season. He's won at Vegas. He's picked up a couple podiums while Avenicus talked about it the other week where you weren't here. He thinks that Misello has a bit of an advantage because he seems to have more raw pace. I mean, I think we both can agree that that doesn't always matter too much when it comes to wheel-to-wheel combat. What do you think can Boosted do if he's lacking a bit of raw pace to basically turn the whole championship around again and maybe get closer to Misello? At the last few races, what does it come down to, in your opinion? What would you suggest with your racing experience?
So if I know both Boosted and Misello from when I was sharing a division with them, and I would say that I would probably agree with the assessment that Misello's probably on just raw pace slightly edging. However, I feel like in Boosted's position with maybe feeling a bit of a pace deficit, even a marginal one, it all comes down to then strategies. It's strategies, it's tire management, it's making the right calls, it's sitting in the DRS when you need to just be towed along, it's overtaking when you overtake. A big factor for my season has been purely just making the decisions at the right times. It's so Boosted needs to make sure that he's not rushing things, he's not throwing away a P2 or a P3 for the sake of another position. Like 10 points is a lot of points, and it's not worth sometimes throwing away even a P5 maybe for the sake of one more position. So it's all about decision making. It's decision making, it's strategies, it's those kind of things. That's going to be really what stands out towards the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can agree. It's not that the difference is big, but as Avenicus said, he thinks Misello just currently always has an answer to what Boosted is pulling out of his hat, which I think maybe at times can get a bit frustrating. But as I said, we've got a couple of rounds left, and it's not like the gap is massive at all. It's, I think, 13 points. Yeah. So
no, you can see through the results that it's frequent that both drivers are consistent. Both drivers are constantly inside the top 10. But you can see there's a pattern of Misello finishing just one position ahead of Boosted. Happened in Hungary, in Portugal, in Silverstone, in Spain. These are all. This is a frequent pattern of you can see emerging of Misello, Boosted getting to Misello, and then their progress being halted. So yeah, it's sometimes just down to racecraft is what wins the races. Because a driver starts to get past you even if they're quicker. So that, yeah, there's a bit of a pattern there as well. Someone else I want to shout out though is also Macca. I as a Mercedes boy, I'm gonna back Macca to put the pressure on the both of them. Done missed 3 races in the season, 4 races in the season, and is right on the tail. And only 54 points behind Masello. So I seems to be in there as well, consistently getting high positions above P7 very constantly. But yeah, I think Mac is going to put the charge on. I think it's going to be a kind of freeway fight up there, and I back Macca's racecraft.
Yeah, I mean, Macca was leading the championship for a couple of rounds. I remember at the start of the season, actually, even though I don't think he has a race win yet. I mean, he obviously isn't the Division 5 champion for nothing. I mean, it's last game that he's good, but just coming back on the booster topic again, I think it's basically what we talked about in Division 2. He maybe just needs that one race where he picks up a P2 or even wins again. I think then it all changes, because then you have like, I can still win. It's still on. It's just at times you just, as a driver, you need the adrenaline and just a positive results to come in and really have to feel that you still got it in you, because while racing is obviously in general a positive thing, I think at times it also can be quite frustrating, especially when you just don't have the answer to one of your rivals. And I think,
but even in China, it was Michello first and boosted second, and that's what I mean when I say like there's the boosters seems to get as far as Michello in a lot of races. And that could be quite telling of the reason why there's a was it a 12-point 12-point deficit between the two.
Yeah, it's crazy also, because I myself I like to watch the streams of the Prix. I know Ashley obviously who's streaming the Division 3 races, and recently they always manage to find themselves on the same piece of tarmac, which already has caused a few tickets. But
proper title fight.
It is a proper title fight, which is good to see. So it's not like some leagues you probably see 1 week one driver performs, the other one is struggling. Then the next week it's just reversed. It's not like a proper it's not that the drivers don't meet each other on track.
It's not yo-yo,
which is really, really good. Well, looking at the team standings once more though, I mean, Sintium, I know you're not going to be happy with me, but what are your lads doing here? I mean, they are not too far off P6, but I think Corey and Dom need to do something here, because I think on the whole grid they're probably one of the better lineups. But what do you think have they got to do? Just send it, or just pick up some solid points?
I think the best thing to do if you're not putting in solid results is just do the best you can. Don't overdrive, because that's obviously the worst thing to do. Overdriving, you can either put yourself in a wall, spin out, crash into other people, just cause incidents that you don't want to cause, which will obviously affect your next races, your reputation, your driving standards, how people would see you, basically. But I just say you've just got to send it, really. Send it fast, aggressive, but not too overly aggressive. Just do it at the best you can and make sure that you can make the moves at a safe rate.
Not into a car, ideally.
Yeah, send it, but not into someone else or the wall. That's the best thing you can really hope for, really.
I mean, if someone knows how to DNF.
Yeah, I guess they can take advice from me. Coming from a few solid DNS, all you've got to do is put your heart to where you want it to be and just drive your life, because that's the best thing to do. Just got to put in the performances, rack up the confidence, say that you can do it. Even if you have to say to yourself, I fucking hate this track, and you just put on solid performances, you can do anything.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's where we can top off Division 3. Well, this is actually turning into some kind of motivational speech tonight. Yes, let's head over to Division 4, which is going to put a smile on someone's face, I'm sure. Well,
I'm going to enjoy this bit.
It
I'm
was.
going to enjoy this bit.
It wasn't an easy race at all, I think, because it rained at the end out of nowhere for a few laps. But I think we can agree that really only one man should have won that race, and that was Neb. It got pole, won the race. I think he had one of the fastest laps of the race, but if you ask me which lap time, I can't fully remember. I've got Sonic in second, another good race by him. Raven West obviously in third. Another podium from P12, so the gained positions statistic is going upwards again. Bob in fourth for us, then Casper in P5, the KRL Tier 3 champion, if I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely.
So good first performance by him. So I was like, we were like, put him into Division 4. Let's challenge some other KRL drivers to see what he can really do. And he's performed nicely with White Josh in P6, Kuel, everyone's favorite, in P7, Mighty J in P8, Koi in P9, and Jesper in P10. Looking at the driver standings, Renwest obviously still leads with 233 points. Then there's nothing for quite a while because Bright has been promoted as well. So Jesper's then on 145 points and Sonic on 130, jumping up a couple of positions. Ronnie then dropping down a bit. He's on 127 points with Koi on 125. Quell on 122, White Josh on 111, Neb on 109, same as Captain Daniel, and Aaron James then on 98 points. In the Constructors Championship, we've got Mercedes obviously leading with 359 points. And I just want to point this out. I mean, I think this mainly goes down to one driver, but yeah. Even though there were a couple of other Mercedes drivers this season, actually. There were Jordan, Koyi, Eagle. I mean, not like they could have scored many by how many drivers there were. But yeah, Mercedes certainly leads Alpine by a country mile because Alpine is only on 286 points, which is apparently more than most of the other teams managed, but still around 80 points off. With Alfa Romeo in third on 273 points, Red Bull in fourth on 241 points, Ferrari then on 228, Alpha Tauri on 189 with a solid margin on McLaren on 163, Aston Martin on 160, Haas on 127, and Williams, like most of the time, at the bottom on 114 points. Well, Ravenist, obviously you were racing yourself. What can you remember from the race, or what stood out from that session?
First thing stood out was just Neb. It was I remember after qualifying, I said because I was in a voice channel with Neb and Banjo and White Josh, and I said, "Oh, Neb's back. Neb is 100% back." Because Belgium's his favorite track, and he'd actually never won a race on F1 23 yet. So that was his first 23 win. He was I was on the VC with him when he crossed that line. He was so happy, and I was just buzzing for him. It was he drove for my team in KRL as well, so I know what kind of seasons he's had, and it's just great to see him on the top spot, even as a rival in GRL. I was really happy for him.
Yeah, I mean, most certainly really strong performance by him. And I think much needed as well because I said he's probably got some high expectations because I think he's the only driver in Division 4 who is actually in KRL Tier 1, even though there are a couple of KRL drivers.
Banjo as well.
Oh yeah, so yeah, I think that's a couple of good drivers which probably keeps all the other KRL Tier 2 or maybe like Casper Tier 3 drivers even pushing more.
Plus,
because
he was the other person that surprised me the most. It was Casper. Because he was behind me for a lot of the race, and he kept up well. He kept up really well. I was able to slowly pull away, but yeah, no, it was very very encouraging to see. And he's someone who I've been doing a lot of work with. I've been getting some coaching and stuff, so it's been really great to see his improvements from a someone who's been mentoring him, because he was my driver in KRL. So yeah, it's been great seeing his pace. He's been really on the uprise recently. I think we're going to see a lot more from him in the next couple of races. But yeah, Jesper was quick. I mean, Wargasm every single time in the last few races. It's been qualifying high up, and then he just drops it, man. And it's so hard to see. But it's getting close to the point now in races where I don't need to. I know that I can just pressure him, and that there'll be a mistake. Or I just need to wait for it to happen. You know what I mean? It's the last couple of races I've gained a position on him purely because of him dropping it. And it's so sad to say, man. But yeah, I faith in him. He'll turn it around. But yeah, no, he's quick because he's so quick. He's always up there. You know what I mean? It's always what was it France? He was P2.
I remember he also.
Yeah, France. He was not P2. Portugal. He was leading. Was he not? So yeah, it's been and again it just I think it was it through Eau Rouge it happened. There was a few people who went off in Eau Rouge, especially when the sky opened up. Yeah, there was a few people went off in Eau Rouge, but because it just got so slippy. To be fair, it was the car was just like floating through the corner. It was just no grip. There was just no grip at all.
Yeah, it looked dreadful on stream, to be honest.
Yeah, we all had very dry setups on. You know what I mean? It was
I mean, it would have not been worth it for a wet setup either, especially at bar with a couple of straights. It's just really the middle sector that makes the difference. But one thing about Casper we talked about, because I actually remember, and I actually watched the race back as well, because Miller was obviously streaming it, and Casper actually stayed out on those softs for the longest and was leading. And I think at the end of lap 21, he was ahead by 11 seconds, but he pitted. And based on the time he lost the lap before, I think he lost 2.5 seconds to Neb. So, well, I remember we were wondering what would have happened if he stayed out, because I think he ended up 5th in the end, but I think it was 6 on track. So yeah, if he stayed out, maybe.
I think he made the right call coming in. I think if he stayed out, it would have been a Landon Norris and Sochi kind of situation. The last few laps, there was standing order. It was like Eau Rouge. He just never would have got through Eau Rouge. He wouldn't have been able to adjust for the side king.
We were like, would he really lose 10 more seconds? Like,
yeah, I think he would have lost it in the next lap alone. Honestly, it got so wet so quickly. Because I remember back now. Yeah, no, I remember how just treacherous Eau Rouge was and stuff. And yeah, I think he really would have. They were just gone. I remember I thought I had gone in slightly late for Inters. I remember thinking that at that point. So yeah, he was definitely a lap too late, I think. Let alone staying out. So no,
I mean, it was his first race, and it was a sensible decision. So
it was a risk. It was a gamble. He rolled the dice. It nearly paid off. You know, I mean, it would have been amazing. But
I mean, usually you would expect, if it's your first race, you might as well say, "I'm going to stay out." And if I felt like I'm going to win my first race, but I think he decided to pick up some points instead of facing the wall a couple of times. Which
he's a smart driver. That's one thing that I've really appreciated about working with him. He's a really, really smart driver. So he even when he rolls the dice and goes to gamble, he has the maturity, almost like the racing maturity to go, okay, this hasn't worked. I need to come in for some wet tires and just pick up whatever positions I can from them. You know what I mean? So yeah, no, it was a good decision in the end to come in, definitely. But it was it mixed up a lot of things. There was I gained like 2 positions because of the weather alone, with people having offs and stuff. So it played to my favour. I've had lots of joys in the wet recently. But this time as well, like think back of my pace didn't come out till the rain came out. So yeah, it's been, I've enjoyed the inter conditions, but yeah, no, it was definitely a big mixer. It just mixed everything up towards the end of that race.
Yeah, well, before Sintium falls asleep along, I'm gonna head over to him as well. I mean, we've said it in the weeks before. Bright has scored loads of points in a short amount of time. Ravenous has always got many points, has always had a lead. Caspers now also had a couple of good weeks. But what do you think of basically midfield, the best of the rest? it's pretty close, like from Sonic all the way down. Or yeah, from Sonic down to, let's say, Captain Daniel in 10th. There's a 21 points gap between those drivers. Does that really seem like at the end of the season anything can happen? Because I think looking at the last two races, it's not like Jesper Ravenwest have won more than one, actually. I think Jesper's won two maybe. But it looks like it's really balanced, which probably makes this end of the season, not for the top of the championship too interesting, but for the constructors around P2, P3, and the drivers for top three spots, probably makes it interesting. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, as much as you want to be looking at the top of the field and who's going to be coming out on top most times, sometimes you've got to look further down. The midfield can be just as interesting, if not more interesting, than the top of the field. Same can be said for the bottom of the field, which doesn't get looked at practically at all. I guess there just has to be the right drivers in there, and if anyone can make a spicy battle, then I think everyone's all for it. The midfield can be either make or die. I think if you can get through it and pull away, you can do something. But if you can't, you're going to be having issues with, obviously, maybe even if lag spikes happen or just racecraft in general. But sometimes the midfield, it can be a really fun thing to watch, fun thing to race in. Sometimes it can just be an absolute nightmare to do.
Yeah, I mean, especially, I've seen many divisions where it's all pretty close. Also, we could come to Div 5 later, which is, since the merge, an absolutely great division. Even though there are no streams, I love to watch just people go up and down the order. But just looking at how close it is in the midfield, like Ryan has said before, he's tier 2 in KRL. Neb has just won a race. He's 9th in the championships. I don't know, he might have joined a few races late, I think. But Rima Banja's also tier 1 over there. He's 13th in the championship, and he's 140 points off you. I think he's missed 2 or so races, but yet again, you would have not expected him there, would you?
He's missed. I think he's missed about 5 races because he was in Australia for a good chunk of the season. He missed. He missed 4 races alone from that. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, no, he's had an up and down season. He's recently been finding his feet again. He's kind of just been. He's a very close friend of mine. And I know he's just been going. He had a little transitional period in his life. He kind of just had to take a step back from league racing for a bit. So, he's finding his feet again now. He's getting back to form. He's definitely back on the right. I think next season you're going to see an explosion from him. But he's going to use the rest of the season, I think, to get as high as he can in the midfield. Send a warning shot for the rest of the drivers, as he's not here to mess around anymore. As with Neb, they're both finding their feet. Neb's already sending us warning shots. Jesper's stapled himself down as a warning shot driver. In the midfield as well, Koyi, he's just a relentless driver. Doesn't matter how many track limit penalties he's got, doesn't matter what position he's in, you just know that he just doesn't wait. It's like having a Verstappen, and it keeps it very interesting. He's a relentless driver to race against. I remember, was it France? Me and him swapped. I think it was just for like 6 laps straight. Me and him just swapped twice a lap at least. Through sector 2.
He was certainly relentless at Sandvoort.
yeah. There's a relentless occupying the space, but it was he's a driver who's you can't sit and relax when he's behind you, so he's always a thorn in the side of any driver in the midfield fight. So he's always a wild card in the JB. He's a very consistent driver. White Josh, he's a very, very consistent driver. I know he's my teammate in the last season of KRL. If we often said that it wasn't me on the podium in KRL, it was him. So I know he's got his rhythm. He's always scoring points consistently. A few mistakes here and there.
Again, yeah, but I think he's like stepping up season by season. Like he was there in season 3. Struggled a bit at the beginning. I think he was before there as well, but this season really seems like he's found found the rhythm nicely, and that's why
he's got Fanatec gear now as well. And then he's been having lots of issues with his Fanatec gear, but it's been sorted, and it's slowly getting better. But yeah, no, once he gets his gear fixed, his pace is there. You know what I mean? He's quick. He's quick when his gear works, and it all comes together.
Well, I can only say to the rest of this grid, please get it sorted, because the gap at the top is way too big. If I wasn't a Mercedes driver, I would be properly concerned.
I see what you said. You said earlier in the server about how every other championship is really interesting. I see what you mean now, going through them like this.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, gotta praise it when someone is doing so well. We had it last season in Div 6, so I guess that's just the one-off per season.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about 60 points gaps. We are talking about lower gaps. So we're going to Division 5 now, because there's actually something going on. Prix, another GRL driver, wins. This time in Div 5 though, he started the race in P4, won for Alpine. We've got Karen Wien in P2, who many people said is completely wrong placed. Well, Freezy just shut that up for a bit and just decided to get on with it, while Beberinho finished third for Red Bull. So I'm just going to say non-British driver, because on one account he's French, on one account he's Brazilian. So he picked up another podium position with Lexus in 4th and Sintium in P5. So actually he's not DNF'd and not won the race. I think that's almost the first time. Kevin then in P6 for Aston Martin, with Andrew in P7, the Flying Scotsman, with Pat Pader in 8th, 10th Cannon in 9th, and Stone Shuffle on his debut in P10. In the driver standings, Andrew still leads the way on 177 points, with Milka on 163 and Sintium on 154. So Andrew takes the lead, actually. It's not extended it. He's picked up those 2 positions. Freezy then in 4th on 149 points, with Lexus on 147, with 10th Cannon on 143, and Beberinho on 138. They're all so close to top 7. So I think that's more like it compared to the Div 4 Championship battle. Mega Messi then in 8th on 95 points, and Kieran UTM, the defending Division 7 champion, well, certainly not defending considering he's now in Division 5, so also in the top 10 for him, with Erna in 10th on 92 points, level pegging with Chase Strait. In the Constructors Championship, Alfa Romeo lead with 481 points, and Haas in 2nd on 413, Ferrari in 3rd on 371, Alpha Tauri in 4th with 353, while McLaren jumps up to 5th on 307, Mercedes on 298, which is probably the worst position in any division so far on P6, so still in the midfield for the German outfit. Red Bull in 7th then on 273 points, with Aston Martin on 237, Williams on 226, and Alpine on 210. I mean, as said, we're not fully up to date with that Belgian Grand Prix podcast, but Sintium, what can you remember from that race, as you actually didn't breeze past anyone or gap them or DNF'd, or what happened in that race?
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty shocking weekend for me, I won't even lie. Qualifying, I bottled my lap that was meant to be the final one, as it started raining near the end of the session, so I think all of us only had about 2 runs in qualifying. The first run, which I normally do in qualifying, is normally just a reconnaissance run, getting used to the track, seeing how well I can push the limits. When realizing that the rain was coming, so I had to get into pits, bolt on the softs, and obviously do the best I can, in which I believe I set a decent time, but it wasn't good enough, as I had made a couple mistakes within the second sector, and obviously there was no time afterwards with the rain coming. But overall, I think the race was just a shit one for me. I had a bit of incidents in the race at the time, which I was thinking, it wasn't my fault with all the adrenaline rushing. After looking back at it, it was practically deemed as a racing incident, and yeah,
Oh,
I
your
mean,
tickets, yeah, I remember.
yeah, yeah. The race, although it started off pretty well, I was fighting for the win for practically most of the race. Top three staying behind the top two as they were battling. Just thought if I could stay with them, I could sort of capitalize. With the wheel then pitted, I went for an undercut as I'd gained the lead. So as soon as I gained the lead, I pitted, thinking, I'll stick on the fresher tires and I can see if I can gain an advantage. It went all right until people behind me, a lot of them pitted on the softs, and it was quite far to go in the softs. So I probably wasn't the only one thinking, surely they're not going to make it to the end. I got probably a bit too defensive and a bit too, I need to stay in front, and I basically ruined my own race. I got taken out. But I guess I could say it made it more fun, and pitted, bolted on the softs, came through the pack, and still finished in a decent place, which I'd consider myself damage limitation, just like last race in France. So overall, it was a pretty shocking race for me, and I could also say for other drivers, it was a really good race midfield wise as well, as there wasn't many safety cars, and the race was just pretty fun overall. Some good battles, which you don't normally see, and so I guess just some great sights to see for once.
Yeah, and obviously Division 5 isn't streamed, so you would expect that, especially as it's one of the lower divisions, usually there are many safety cars, but as you said, apparently much green flag running, which is good to see. But yeah, I mentioned before already that there are many championship contenders still in the run for the championship in the driver standings. To be accurate, probably 7, because it's between Andrew, Cal,
Half the grid.
Sintium, Freezy, Lexus, 10th Cannon, and Beberinho. I think everyone behind is just too far behind, unless they just rack up 5 wins in a row like some people would do.
I wouldn't know who'd do that.
And obviously those characters are not the most known, and you've raised them. Well, you've raised, I think, Beberinho, 10th Cannon. He's your teammate, obviously.
Yeah, I mean,
you've raised a
Beberinho, he's
couple.
a rapid one.
Who's that? Sorry.
Beberinho, he's a rapid one. We've definitely had a good few battles, mainly
Yeah,
Hungary
I
as
was about
well.
to say, like, if I look at them, I mean, Andrew is obviously he's here since season 2. We all know Andrew. There's not too much to talk about him. His qualifying is basically non-existent, but he's consistent in the races. You yourself, I mean, you've got great quality, you've got good race pace. There's no issues in pace. There's just a bit of unlucky moments, I guess, and also
Bit of talent issues.
the odd lack of consistency. Yeah, I mean, 10th Cannon is always there or thereabout, but Beberinho has always been a kind of the question mark. I mean, how is he? Like, does he have more the strengths in quali, or is this race pace also pretty good? It's just hard to rank, really, from the outside.
I think he's almost like me. He's got really good quality pace. He's also got really good race pace. So it's sort of in the top mix of where I am and sort of other drivers are. So that makes for some decent battles. Like as I said, we had a good battle in Hungary, had a good battle in France before I bottled it. We didn't really get a chance to race in Spa as we weren't really close together, and when we were, it was the pit lane, so you can't really count that as a battle. But yeah, I'd say he's a really good driver, very fun to battle with, and many more battles to come, I'd say, and which will be very fun to watch and be with.
I mean, he's only just started really picking up his podiums. I mean, this was his second one. He had 1 pole position, I think, but actually no race wins. So yeah.
He has a sprint race win in France.
Well, I guess that's something. So
You can count that.
He's done a Piastri, so it's not.
Yeah, he's done a good job. I'll say that.
But yeah, once again, it's your division. You kind of know who you're racing. If you just now had to pick 1 or 2 people, you can put the money on yourself. Obviously, I mean, you're doing well. Who would you think are the 2 favourites to pick it up? Would you put it on Andrew, for example, who's lacking the raw pace, or maybe, as you said, Freeze and Beberinho, who seem really quick?
I mean, obviously, I'm going to back myself. I
That's
want to
good.
be
Like the
on top.
confidence.
I'm going to want to win the races. I'm going to want to be on top. So obviously, I'm going to back myself. But excluding myself, I think obviously, if Andrew keeps the consistency up, which if he hadn't keeping the consistency up, he'd be further down the grid and the driver standings. He can definitely be there. I think Beberinho will be there as well. That's for sure. Freezy, he's had a good few races, maybe some unlucky places to be in, but I think he can also be there. There's a lot of drivers that could be in contention. Even my teammate Temp Cannon, he's not as close to the top, but he's still there. So I'm not counting him out. But if I had to pick two, obviously I'd probably say me and Bebberino.
Yeah, that's probably a pretty good pick, and I like that. I mean, it's just beautiful to watch, like 7 drivers being pretty close together. I mean, it's under 40 points, it's less than 2 race wins, so a lot can happen. And I think
Yeah,
it opens up the percentage chance of championship contenders getting too close for comfort. So
yeah. When there's that many contenders, you can't really. It puts you on a spot to see
yeah, you
who do you
can't,
think's going to
because
win it.
usually if it's a 2 or 3 drivers championship battle, you can kind of look at the map and make the maths for yourself. But whoever's going to do the championship permutations for this one for the last 2 rounds, I feel for them. They gotta certainly earn a lot of money, because that's some work. And we obviously hope that it stays that close, or even gets closer. As you said, Beberinho seems quick, so maybe he can jump up a couple of
Definitely need to
positions.
find a Division 5 commentator to be able to stream and commentate the race because I think it would be very enjoyable and interesting to watch.
Well, what can I say? I have a slight feeling that one of the divisions will be decided quite shortly. So if there's a championship going on last round, I think we'll get something sorted for that. I mean, before we head over to Division 7, I mean, from the outside Raven West, I mean, it overall looks like a great championship. I mean, Constructors is more spread out because it's 2 merged divisions. But if you just look on that from an outside perspective, and from someone who is already up and an owner of leagues and knows how the stuff runs, really, what would you be excited to just watch this go on?
I'm excited about the fact that it's just close for a few drivers, and it's not even a matter of, if you're going through the results, it's not a matter of one driver always winning in the races, always in the podiums. It's an even spread. I mean, you go on the table view of the results, and it's just gold dots spread everywhere. There's so many different race winners. There's so many different podium sitters. It's a really obviously competitive league and competitive division. Yeah, but as I said, Beberinho looks to be really exciting. He's actually always in that top 5 kind of consistently. Milk has been putting in good results. Obviously, everyone knows Andrew. He's been here. It's nice to see someone who's been so involved so long in the league, and so associated with the league as he's part of the furniture now in GRL. Nice to see him doing well inside the league he put so much work into and stuff. So yeah, no, it's good to see. It's a happy division, I think.
I'm just gonna figure something out. I mean, I'm looking on how many people won races. I mean, this was now round 14, so we're gonna have around 22 races, because those people didn't always race in the same tiers. But those 2 divisions combined have got 16 race winners, different race winners. I mean, that is getting close to Season 3 Division 4 levels, if not better. But it's obviously hard to tell when it was merged divisions. But yeah, I think that's amazing, and I personally can't wait for it. I mean, as said, it would be great if that would be somewhere to watch, because I think us wouldn't be the only ones who'd like to watch that. I mean, one of us will certainly drive, so he's not going to watch live. But yeah, I can't wait for that, because that looks like one of the best championships, especially in the lower divisions, since Division 6, which was the penultimate division kind of last season, was not the most interesting one, and now it's everyone's going for it. So yeah, can't wait. So now let's head over to the final division of the day, which is Division 7. And to win races, you need to be quick. So Quick Mick won for Mercedes. He was a reserve. From Browns to Buns in second. so was a Mercedes 1-2. I mean, that's certainly not going to help the other teams in the overall Constructors Championship. Golden Wolf, with the fastest lap, finished in P3 as well, with Stuart in P4, Gasser Buchanan in P5, Axe Flasher in P6, Monopole Monster in P7, Spud Racing in P8, Static in 9th, and Sparky in 10th. So Sparky picking up another few solid points. In the Drivers' Championship, Sion now on 168 points still. He couldn't attend, so his advantage is not that big anymore. Axe Flasher then in second on 152.5 points, with Stube on 146.5, Gaza then on 143.5, dropping down a position compared to the Frenchman. Mike Reed on 128 points. He usually wins or DNFs. This time he DNF'd. Something that Haas drivers would do, I think. But we move on to Leo Hamilton in P6 on 124 points, Browns de Buns in 7th on 117, Moss on 116, Logan J, who left the league on 93 points, and Sparky in 10th on 65.5 points. And the final division-based Constructors Championship, McLaren on 292 points leading, so I think the only division where McLaren is actually at the top, with Haas in second on 280.5 points, Williams on 234, and Ferrari on 230.5. For Mercedes on 193, once again in the top 5 teams in this division, Alfa Romeo on 187, Alpine on 173.5, Red Bull on 161.5, Alpha Tauri on 103.5, and Aston Martin at the bottom of the table on with 60.5 points. So they certainly need to find some form quite shortly. I mean, Raven West, we talked about momentum earlier. There is momentum, and then there's pure lack of getting a reserve performing for the team to win the race and also bring the actual Merc driver with him in P2. I mean, this is basically what shows like our drivers are pretty much performing. Well, he's actually using the number 44 I've just seen. And then also having a reserve who brings home the points. I mean, this just speaks for everything working fine at Mercedes and just all the systems working nicely, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's been a good season. It's just everything's been put together well. Things have fallen well in terms of fortune, in terms of race results. Yeah, it's just everything's going well. Even the reserves. I mean, like I said, I've had a couple of teammates. I've not had anyone who's failing to score points as a teammate. So, yeah, it's been good. It's been a good season from all aspects. That whatever, like, you really shine on it. Apart from maybe one division, but apart from that, there's the Mercs are always kind of in the conversation, aren't they?
Yeah, well, we're certainly reaching early hybrid era levels at this rate. So, that's good. Well, looking at the Constructors Championship, Haas is obviously just over 30 points behind the McLaren. I mean, Sintium, Haas is obviously your team. With Axe Flasher and Mike Reed, you actually have 2 drivers in that championship battle. Maybe Mike Reed is a bit far off, but he's proven that he can win multiple races already. So it's more kind of you, so like win or DNF recently. With those 2 really strong drivers, well, McLaren also have 2 up there, obviously. You think your team can basically dispatch McLaren and maybe gain the points disadvantage back, and maybe bring home one of the few trophies Haas will hopefully get, or you reckon it will be certainly some challenge to claw back those couple of points?
Well, I think anything's possible, to be honest. I've definitely showed it. If you could either DNF or you can win the race, or you can finish in the points. So if I can do it, anyone can do it, really. Mike Reed, he's definitely showed that he can win races. He's shown that he's got the potential. So all he's got to do is keep it consistent. He's got to find that sweet spot and keep it at that rate. Obviously, it'll be all right to have a few bad results. Just try not to make it too often. And if you do have bad results where you see that you can't win the race, just try and give the best damage limitation you can and finish in the points, really.
Yeah, and it's obviously I can't read. It's obviously not over 30 points. It's 12.5 points. Haas are lacking to McLaren, so that's probably certainly possible for the Haas team, which in GRL actually have only won 2 trophies yet. Which is a Drivers and Constructors Championship in Division 6. So I'm sure they would be happy to pick a third one up, because I think that's probably it's probably not the likeliest one, because I think the Division 5 Drivers Championship is also on for both of the drivers. Well,
Yeah, I mean, overall as well, sorry to butt in, but I feel like
Maurice.
when you have, if you look at real life, I feel like if you have backmarker teams fighting for championships, although it might be a game, I feel like it just spices up the grid all like a lot better. Because obviously in real life you see, let's say Williams has sit at the bottom of the grid, sit at the bottom of the tables, all that. But then obviously if you have a game, you've got equal cards, and I feel like that's what it's fun to watch. You can have backmarket teams leading championship, you can have them winning championships, you can have them winning races, and I think it's just a great sight to see.
Exactly. That's probably why some people really like playing the career mode on the current game. Well, not on the current game probably, but on the phone games, because you can really switch things around, and suddenly Haas's and Williams are fighting for top positions, which is good. I think especially the equal car adjustments, when they work, are certainly something that improves the racing for sure. So you don't, like in real life, have the performance determining the results, really based on the cars. But yeah, that's our divisions basically wrapped up. So, as Blade and me usually say, we're gonna head over to the championship, which we all wake up for Monday mornings and say like it's all about the overall constructors. So basically, at the top, nothing has changed. Well, it kind of has, because Mercedes has extended the gap even more, because they sit now on 1,759 points, with Alfa Romeo on 1,483. So almost 300 points the gap is now. With Ferrari now, though, in third on 1,285.5 points, and Haas on 1,272.5. So even though Haas are not near the top in the top 4 divisions, they've certainly scored loads of points so far, and maybe on for possibly P2 at the end of the season. But they've got some teams for company, that's for sure. They've got McLaren in P5 on 1,267 points, Red Bull in P6 on 1,254.5 points, and Alpha Tauri only 1 point behind. And you think it's over? It's certainly not. Alpine is only 8 points further behind in P8. So P3 to P8 is an absolute melee of cars and teams, however you want to call it. Aston Martin then in P9 on 976.5 points, so they've already got big gap to P8, while Williams is another 71.5 points off P9. So yeah, I think it would be quite boring if you just start talking about what's going on really at that championship at the top. But looking, as that was last week's standings, basically, yeah, that was last week. And if you look now, Mercedes still leading with 300 points. Then you've got Red Bull now in third on 1,384.5 points, and McLaren in fourth on 1,358 points. With Alpine in fifth, Alpha Tauri in sixth, and Ferrari and Haas are now seventh and eighth instead of third and fourth. While Aston Martin is now over 1,000 points. So this is now actually getting a bit scary since the last 2 weeks, because we had, I think Sintium was here for that, we had Alpine and Alpha Tauri in third and fourth for the 3 weeks prior. Well, like it's between them two. Then Ferrari and Haas have appeared, in third and fourth. Then a seventh and eighth, and a Red Bull and McLaren are there. I mean, what the hell is going on there? It's just absolutely crazy, isn't it? How the teams just swap every week.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy. You can't predict these things, and I think if you do predict these things, you're one of the smartest motherfuckers in the world. And what can you say? It's changed drastically, and that's what you like to see. Obviously, Mercedes at top boo. Obviously, their dominance hasn't really cleared. So, but no, I think it's very fun to watch, and you can expect anything. Obviously, Haas taking one of the biggest drops as well as Ferrari, which for me isn't a great sight to see, but at the same time, there's still a lot to win. There's still rounds left. We've still got chances to take, and I know for myself, I'm going to take as much as every chance as I can take to help get Haas up where they belong, which is at the top of the table.
Yeah, I mean, it's better than real life midfield, really, isn't it? It's just everyone swapping, and also Red Bull, who was 8th for basically the whole season, and now they've appeared up there. It's great, and it probably makes you and your team push even harder, no? Because there's a big difference if you can say at the end of a 22 race season, I finished third, or I've come home in P8, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you could always expect the worst, can't you? But you can always expect the best.
Yes, but I mean, P3 would have said be Haas's best position by far, because let me think. In the overall constructors, Haas in season 1 were P5 in the overall constructors. In season 2 they were 10th. In season 3 they were 10th again. And now then the battle for third. So yeah, I think that will be great for the whole team. So let's have a look how they will do there. I'm sure you and 10th Cannon will do your best personally to get the team up there. I mean, Raven West, we just talked about the midfield. If you look at the last 2 weeks, it's absolutely crazy. I mean, I've talked about the Division 4 midfield, about the Division 5 championship fight. But that's something, even though for the outside spectators, it's probably not interesting because it's from P3 to P8. But they are swapping every week.
Yeah, it's so close. The order. There's no pattern at all in the order. It's anyone can win the first spot at this rate. Like it's going Alpine, Alpha Tauri, Alpine, Ferrari, Red Bull. Like yeah, no, it's that's the first spot, and then there's no one. It's not even the same teams flitting around in the fourth and fifth spots. Like Ferrari are down at the bottom, and they go up again, and they go down again. It's yeah, no, it's yeah. Like I said, it's swapping every week, man.
Yeah, and the thing is, because of that, like they're keeping the gap to Alfa Romeo, but if one of the teams would decide we're going to stay third now, they would probably gain on Alfa Romeo as well. So I think even if Alfa Romeo is currently putting in solid performances, I think they are still in danger, aren't they? Because those teams will surely, caused by the team owners, just push hard to at least get third, and at some point they might end up with second because there's still a couple of rounds to go. But yeah, for the top spot, really, it looks like we're just waiting for the news, really, for Mercedes to become overall constructors champions. While at the bottom, it is.
Oh, it's coming to Germany. It's coming to Germany.
Well,
should be going to America.
I can't say I would be too happy about it at Austrian, but yeah, well, deal with it. Once again, the Germans needed an Austrian. That's what I can say. But yeah, I mean, I think us three have really summed that week up nicely. I mean, even though it seemed like the championship didn't change massively, which is not a shock considering every division did one race, But I think there were many very interesting races. In Division 1, we had a late safety car which turned everything around. Well, actually, a championship contender got spun, which we didn't even mention because so many things happened. In Division 2, the championship got close at the top. In Division 3, we were talking about what can boost it to close the gap even more to Marcelo. In Division 4, we've got a crazy midfield fight and had an absolutely crazy race. That's for sure. With Neb winning the race as well. So I think that was good for his confidence in the last 2 races. In Div 5, we've got the craziest championship fight in the drivers going on. While in Div 7, it's all nicely balanced out. So I think Spa certainly delivered once more, like it usually does. And yeah, next week we're gonna head over to Sakhir in Bahrain. And well, I'm now sitting here with
Stinky
Reyes and
Reese.
Sintium, and if you ask me who I'm going to be here with next time, I could not tell you at all. So yeah, we hope you have enjoyed this podcast, and we hope to see you very soon when GRL returns.